connecting you to the future. Preparation for the final mission to an orbiting icon. Afghanistan's first ever national park. And the new sports sedan from an unexpected car maker. Earlier this year, the Space Shuttle Atlantis sat waiting. At the Hubble Space Telescope ground station, controllers were anxious. For several months, a series of technical problems had delayed Atlantis' repair mission to the Hubble, and the orbiting telescope was in serious need of repair. For almost 20 years, the telescope has orbited, capturing images free from the distorting effect of the Earth's atmosphere. Hubble has revealed distant galaxies with unparalleled clarity. Launched in 1990, expectations for the Space Telescope were high. It was hoped it would answer long-standing questions. But soon after it was delivered to orbit by the Shuttle Discovery, it became apparent that somebody had made a huge mistake. Images from Hubble were of poor quality because the primary mirror had been ground to the wrong shape. The hyperbolic mirror was too flat at the edges, resulting in severe spherical aberration. During the building of the telescope, the instrument used to check the mirror had itself been incorrectly assembled, and the flaw went undetected. It seemed the Hubble Space Telescope would become one of the most expensive pieces of junk ever launched. During its first years of operation, Hubble delivered images that were of limited value. But because the telescope had been designed so that it could be serviced while still in orbit, an elaborate mission was devised that would attempt to correct the fault. In 1993, a new shuttle, Endeavour, would fly astronauts to the HST for a 10-day mission. It was impossible to fix the mirror, so new instrument packages that compensated for the error were built.
Space Telescope Captain.
Houston, Endeavour has a firm handshake with Mr. Hubble's telescope.
We copy that, Cubby, and there are smiles galore down here.
It was the most complex shuttle mission ever performed. As well as fitting the corrective optics package, new solar arrays were installed and new gyroscopes. Immediately, the pictures were transformed. The Messier 100 galaxy was revealed in unprecedented clarity, and the telescope started to operate as intended, sending back images that made astronomers gasp.
Hubble has crossed the boundary almost between science and general culture. It has become part of our culture. I mean, there isn't anybody almost today who has not heard about the Hubble Space Telescope.
Every few years, Hubble has been visited by a shuttle mission that has replaced old equipment with more advanced technology, and it has boosted its decaying orbit. The Space Telescope's modular design allowed it to receive new batteries. Its reel-to-reel tape recorder was replaced with modern solid-state memory, and command and control systems were regularly updated. But after the shuttle Columbia broke up during re-entry, future missions to Hubble were cancelled. Shuttle flights were limited to the International Space Station. Without servicing, Hubble's days were numbered. Only when a backup rescue shuttle could be ready to fly was one last Hubble service mission authorised, and a new team of astronauts began rehearsals for the final Hubble mission. Much of this work happens underwater in simulated weightlessness at the Johnson Space Centre.
We're changing out or repairing 4 instruments. We're doing batteries, gyros, a fine guidance sensor, new outer layers on the telescope. There's a lot of activities that are going on, and to get all that to fit, it has to be really efficient.
Just weeks before the scheduled mission, the Space Telescope's data handling unit failed, though a backup took over. It was decided that this system should be replaced as well. Technicians had to readjust telescope operations.
We have to prepare the telescope for the rendezvous. We have to point it in the right direction. We have to put our instruments in a safe state. You don't want a lot of power on when we're getting rendezvoused. We have to get ready for the actual spacewalk.
Finally, in May, Atlantis was ready to go. And for the first time, a second shuttle was ready for a rescue mission.
Liftoff of Space Shuttle Atlantis, a final visit to enhance the vision of Hubble into the deepest grandeur of our universe.
This was the first shuttle flight since the Columbia disaster that visited an orbit from which it could not reach the International Space Station. Any serious damage to its heat-resistant tiles during the climb to orbit would trigger the rescue mission. It was almost 2 days before Atlantis was able to catch up with the Space Telescope, and the serious work could begin. This fifth and final service mission installed the most advanced imaging and spectrographic instruments yet built. The Wide Field Camera 3 now gives the telescope enhanced sensitivity, while the Cosmic Origin Spectrograph will enable the chemical analysis of distant gas and dust clouds, and all gyroscopes and batteries have been replaced. Hubble is now on its own. It is hoped that this latest upgrade will allow at least 5 more years of operational life. The Bandamere Lakes once attracted many visitors, but for the past 30 years, this region has fallen into obscurity. The chain of lakes is northwest of Kabul in Afghanistan, and turbulence in the country meant that these pristine turquoise lakes had been forgotten by the outside world. During the 60s, the lakes were set down to become Afghanistan's first national park, but it was never proclaimed. Finally, in 2008, Bandamere was declared a national park. The event was historic, raising hope that perceptions of Afghanistan will change.
It shows to everybody that in Afghanistan, it's not only war, you know, even the ambassador of United States of America, the second vice president of Afghanistan, they can come together, they can walk easily, they can ride a boat, and this is going to be a good news for everybody, as it's going to affect, we hope it's going to affect Afghanistan.
The new park will be managed by a partnership of Afghan government agencies and the Bandamere Protected Area Committee. The committee is made up of people from the 13 villages within the park. It will provide employment and ensure that local communities play a role in preserving the region. The waters here are rich in calcium carbonate, giving them a distinctive deep blue colour and resulting in travertine deposits that form barriers between the various lakes. According to the Wildlife Conservation Society, much of the park's wildlife has been lost. But recent WCS surveys show it still contains ibex, the Urial type of wild sheep, and the Afghan snowfinch, the only bird found exclusively in Afghanistan. Bandamere is in Bamiyan province, a region populated by the Hazara people that is now enjoying a degree of stability. In the past, Bamiyan province was in the international spotlight for all the wrong reasons, when the Taliban destroyed the 1,500-year-old giant Buddhas carved in Afghanistan's pre-Islamic history. The Wildlife Conservation Society developed the park's management plan and helped the Afghan government hire and train local rangers. Tourism has begun to increase, and a small area of shops, restaurants and hotels has grown in response. Covering 59,000 hectares, the park's combination of desert, water and rock make for landscapes that should be preserved for future generations. Recently, a new car made its debut. The Panamera is not just a new model for high-performance car maker Porsche. It's a venture into a different area of the market. The Panamera is Porsche's grand touring sports car. Designers of the Panamera have positioned the car as a new and truly different model that still retains the looks of a typical Porsche, except that it has 4 doors. The Panamera comes in a rear-wheel drive configuration or an all-wheel drive variant. Inside there's space, one feature that has not generally been associated with the Porsche name. Buyers can choose between a conventional 6-speed manual transmission or the 7-speed double-clutch transmission. The electronically controlled double-clutch system can be set to automatic or operated by paddles. The air suspension and dynamic chassis control allow the ride height to be raised or lowered, while the active front and rear anti-roll bar settings can also be adjusted for more controlled high-speed driving. The styling has been criticised. Some analysts feel the 911 front end doesn't flatter the larger sedan. Although Porsche says the Panamera is still a driver's car, all 4 occupants can enjoy comfort in both the front seats and the 2 firmly contoured single seats in the rear. The luggage compartment easily takes 4 large items, and folding rear seat backrests allow the space to be adjusted. Porsche even has plans to launch a hybrid Panamera. Just north of San Francisco, the steaming heat below the surface of the Earth is an important element of the power supply. At the Geysers, a 1,400-hectare steam field, about 100 kilometres north of the city, naturally heated water bubbles up through holes in the ground. In spite of the heat and the pungent sulphur-smelling steam, certain plants and types of algae are adapted to the hot springs. Brian Benn is the Manager of Environment, Health and Safety at the Geysers.
In this section, in this area of the geysers, it just so happens that the shape of the heat source comes fairly near the surface here. In fact, nearby here, it comes up from underground nearly to sea level, and we're at about 1,350 feet here. So we're only about 1,000 feet away from the very intense heat that supplies the geysers with energy. And so there's a fraction of the Earth that sort of provides an opportunity for the steam from that resource to leak through the roof, you might say, and expel itself here.
Located above the fault between the Pacific and North American tectonic plates, the Geysers is the most active geothermal field in the United States. With so much energy so easily available, it was obvious that somebody would harness it, and that's just what Calpine, the biggest geothermal producer in North America, has done. Mike Rogers is Senior Vice President for Calpine's geothermal region.
You need 3 things in order to get geothermal energy out of the ground in what we'll call a conventional state. You need heat, you need water, and you need a fractured reservoir such that the water can make it to the heat. That's what we have here at the geysers, and that's what allows us to produce steam and subsequently electricity from this location.
Groundwater is heated by hot rock beneath the surface, creating a natural bed of steam under extremely high pressure. Calpine pipes the steam to 15 plants, where it turns turbines and generates electricity. 1 cubic kilometre of hot granite at 250 degrees Celsius has the stored energy equivalent of 40 million barrels of oil. Geothermal energy now generates 3,000 megawatts of electricity in the US, and industry analysts estimate another 3,000 megawatts will soon come online. However, traditional geothermal energy extraction techniques are likely to be surpassed in the next decade. Calpine's generation plants are getting old, and depletion of the groundwater has seen a drop-off in output. A plan to re-inject wastewater from nearby Santa Rosa should increase electrical output, but current water recycling methods at the plant have been superseded.
that air takes the heat out of the water in the form of water vapor, and it blows it up into the atmosphere as natural water vapor that's just returned to the environment.
With the new American administration's focus on carbon reduction, money is now available for the development of geothermal and solar energy, and research groups are now able to apply for funding. Researchers like Stephen Glasser hope the funds will help more advanced geothermal technology become available.
Oh, it'll certainly be sufficient to advance. Will it be enough to allow us to start commercially generating energy from geothermal? Probably not. It's enough that we can answer some important questions, looking at different circulating fluids, looking at different ways to connect the wells, which are all our important issues. So if we can solve the very large issues, then the smaller details are much easier to attack.
The new geothermal technologies will extract energy from far deeper inside the Earth's crust. These areas are more plentiful than steam beds, but harder to access. To extract this heat, water has to be injected.
If we pump water under pressure into the hole in the rock, it's going to try to push the rock apart. There's always a weak point, and a crack starts to grow. And what's shown here on this black line, if you look close enough, there's a very small crack. So the fluid forced the rock open and came out to the side of the rock. And what we were able to do is, with stream potential, we could map out the crack growing, and we could actually see a precursor to the crack growing.
In the meantime, Calpine continues to provide a reliable source of power for Northern California. To take advantage of carbon-free geothermal power, pilot projects are starting around the world, and mining for commercially viable sources of heat could become as common as the mining of minerals. In China, the bicycle is very popular, but with a flourishing economy, many Chinese are still riding but pedaling less. Every day, Hu Wen spends 30 minutes gliding through Beijing on his electric bike, avoiding tangles in the peak hour traffic. Charging the battery overnight means Hu is ready to go via the cheapest form of powered transport there is. The electric bicycles need 1 kilowatt-hour of electricity for every 100 kilometres. The other big advantage is that electric cycling is emissions-free. Today, the country has become the world's #1 electric bike manufacturer. Industry estimates put the number of electric bikes on China's roads at more than 65 million. Hu Wen is one of those owners.
My bike is for convenience, whereas the cars on the road get mostly stuck in traffic. It's a fast and steady transport.
With growing numbers of cars, buses and trucks choking the capital roads, the electric bike is a fast and inexpensive way to bypass traffic congestion. With many people having to commute long distances, the electric bike combines speed with comfort. An hour's drive from Beijing is Tianjin, the country's largest bicycle manufacturing centre. The city produces 1/3 of China's electric bicycles. Hanmar Electromobile was one of the first companies to make electric bicycles. In 1998, the company's first year producing the bikes, they made 2,000 cycles. Since then, sales have exploded. Xi Zhongdong is the head of the Hanmar company.
Electronic bicycles use 1 degree or 1 kilowatt-hour of electricity for every 100 kilometres. In Tianjin, each kilowatt of electricity only costs 0.5 yuan. Compared to other vehicles, it saves a lot of energy.
The lightweight battery-powered two-wheelers are in a class of their own. Electric bikes in China involve few extra expenses. Unlike motorcycles, electric bikes require no driver's license, license plates or helmets. Retail outlet The Great Electric Bike World specialises in the low-cost two-wheelers. Sales manager Wang Jinzan has a theory why the cycles are so popular.
The improvement in the Chinese quality of life has resulted in higher consumption levels. Cycling for more than an hour was quite common when I was young, but the young nowadays are exhausted after cycling for an hour or more.
In China, electricity increases the pedaling, but in the United States, pedal power is still being used to generate electricity. Employees from the Seattle-based Jones Soda Company decided to cycle their way through the working day to provide enough energy to light up their office. They even disconnected the office from the power supply.
Basically, we're taking the fuses out of the old style to turn the lights off in the rest of the building, just to ensure that we're totally off the grid.
The event was to mark Earth Day and launch the company's new Keeping It Real sustainability initiative. The workers turned pedaled energy into electricity by riding 10 bikes that were hooked up to generators that in turn powered computers, phones, and some basic office equipment, just enough to keep the business functioning.
We are riding to set to power 10 laptops, I think 3 phones and 1 printer in our office. We took ourselves off the grid for the day. Try to help save energy and be conservative on Earth Day.
All lights, computers, and electrical devices in the rest of the company's headquarters were shut down for the day. The company is working with business partners and the wider community to promote a healthier environment through energy management and waste reduction.
You know, a lot of the office is training for the Seattle to Portland bike ride, so this is perfect. It's helping us train and doing something good, making a stand today.
Here, generating electricity by pedal power is being used to demonstrate concern about environmental damage. But in Kenya, electricity from cycle-driven generators can make a real difference to people's lives. 2 electrical engineering students at the University of Nairobi have invented a device that charges a mobile phone while riding a bicycle. In remote areas with little infrastructure, the mobile phone has had a big impact. But without mains power, recharging the battery is a problem. Jeremiah Murmi and Pascal Cantana, in their 4th year of study, have built a prototype rectifying device that converts power from a standard cycle dynamo into current usable by a phone charger. Kenya has seen interesting developments in mobile phone usage. They form the vital link in a unique funds transfer system that has been pioneered here, and the cell phone is an important tool for more than just idle chat. Currently, people living in rural areas must travel to the nearest source of electricity and pay a fee to charge their phones. The new bike-based charging system could provide a real benefit to remote communities.